as well. So thank you all for joining us this afternoon. I want to introduce David Farley, who has been doing most of the teaching this term for the third year group. So many thanks to David, and also thanks for him and Sophie. Sophie Jump is over there, who's been working with us. Michael, Dick Straker, James Perkins, I'm forgetting people probably, but and Glen, there you are, down the bottom, not forgetting Glen. So I wanted to set up an event where just some of the graduates could celebrate this moment by meeting some fantastic designers. So thank you, Soutra, Ray and Rajha, for joining us for this moment. I think Pip and Sinead have some questions, is that right?
We'll come to some questions in a little bit. Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, maybe I'll pass over to David now, because he knows the logistics of all of this better than I do. So,
very good. Thank you for that, Lucy. Yeah, we just wanted to, as they said, put together a little celebration of our fabulous graduates and being able to invite some alumni and fabulous designers and other wonderful designers along to come and say hello as well. Yeah, I wondered if we could start just by a little introduction from our panel. If Ray, Soutra and Rajha, if you'd like to just say hello and maybe just say a few words about yourselves. Ray, if you'd like to kick us off.
Yeah. Hi, Ray Smith, designer, set and costume designer, also artist and printmaker and other stuff. I'm really happy to be here. I'm particularly happy that Soutra and Rajha are here, because I've been very lucky to meet them, working with them on Scene Change, which was a kind of godsend during our isolation, lockdown, imprisonment. Just connecting with each other amongst initially 13 people was a lovely thing to do, and then broaden it out into greater amounts of designers. And we realised how important connectivity and being together kept us buoyant and healthy and imaginative, basically, as well as we're able to make more pragmatic and practical connections as designers, in terms of, you know, contractual things, practical stuff, money, all the things we worry about in order to keep alive as designers. Obviously, I've managed to keep going as a designer over the last 35 years now, and I'm very happy to be here to support and discuss being a theatre designer.
Wonderful. Thank you, Ray. Soutra, like to follow up? Oh, you're muted.
Yeah, I did that so you wouldn't hear the wind. I'm here sitting in my pretty small bijou studio in my garden. That's what you can see above me, is various old drawings from back in the day when we used to do things like that. I'm like Ray, I'm a stage designer who does set and costume. I mainly work through the medium of drawing and models. And I've worked for 25 years now. It's really whizzed past, I have to say. It's pretty terrifying how quickly that happens. And again, like Ray, I've been lucky to always work. That doesn't actually always mean always get paid or always be well paid, but it certainly does mean always working. And I think in many ways, one of the things that would be useful probably to get out of today is find ways that you can always move forward as a designer in tricky times, whatever those may be. There's always some tricky time in any designer's career. And we can talk about a few of those. Sometimes it's being a mum, sometimes it's starting out and working at a very, small scale with very little money, and sometimes it's a pandemic. Who knew? That's certainly an unusual turn of events. So yeah, that's me. Over to Rajha.
Hello all. I'm not muted. No, good. So I realized when I got invited to come and join you on this talk that I think it's like 20 years ago I graduated, which is slightly terrifying. Isn't that right, Peter? Anyway, and yeah, so I guess I call myself a theatre designer, sort of freelance, on a freelance basis, which is a huge conversation that we're having at the moment. I guess my medium is not strictly sort of drawing and model making. I work very much as a sort of multidisciplinarian, really. I work a lot with film as well, and photography. So those are sort of my skills. This is my second career. I come from a maths background, so and I very much know this kind of time, the nerve-wracking time of sort of graduating and just sort of facing this this time, let alone on top of it, we're having to deal with this pandemic. I do see it as an opportunity for us to, as artists, really to develop and just sort of branch out and reach out to other things and other, you know, other disciplines and other experiences now. So I'm actually quite positive, aside from all the horribleness of it all. Creatively, it's quite a positive place to be. Over to you guys.
Fabulous. Thank you very much for that. And so we have a number of other wonderful designers with us here as well. What I'd like to do is for our class of 2020 to introduce themselves. So if we can go through the class register. And we'll go through alphabetical from surname. So Renzo, are you with us? You managed to join us, Renzo?
Hiya.
Hey, Renzo. Go for it.
Hi. I'm Renzo, also known as Tika. I am nervous about going into the big world, but really excited. I guess now I'm a graduate. It's a whole new terminology, but yeah. So right now, I'm kind of focusing on my end of year project and actually making it real, hopefully in the near future, because it was about mental health and skin diseases. And it was a massive personal project that I really want to end up creating somehow. So hopefully that's a collaborative piece. I'm already talking to some people about that. And yeah, that's a big project that I'm looking forward to working on in the future, depending on how theatre design ends up going. And also I love design, I love theatre design, but I also work in events. So right now I've been during this quarantine, been putting on events, hosting, and finding an alternative way to work during quarantine and putting everything online compared to actually, you know, that human interaction that you get. So right now it's kind of just trying to work with the new version, because I'm like all about meeting people and like the whole presence of everything, including events and theatre design. I'm trying to, in the new kind of mix my knowledge of theatre design into events. So yeah, and I think in the future I'd like, my end goal is like working on stages and maybe hopefully working on like Glastonbury stage.
Very
yeah.
good. Very good. Nice one. Ruth.
Hi. Hello.
Hi, Ruth.
Hi, my name is Ruth Badila, and I am a set and costume designer. I'm basically multidisciplinary, and yeah, I'm just like, during the 3 years of my uni, I've just learned so much about myself and what kind of designer I want to be, and it's been a really great journey, which I'm excited to start a new one. Currently I've just been reaching out to a lot of designers and stuff like that to see if I can assist. And actually tomorrow I'm going to be working with one designer for Love magazine, with an artist, Georgia Smith, which I'm pretty excited about. But yeah.
Awesome. Congratulations, well done. Rebecca, you're with us here?
Can you hear me?
Yes, there we go.
Hi, I'm Rebecca Bevan. Currently, obviously, just graduated. I'm currently looking at for the next, hopefully few years, but mostly for this upcoming year, to be looking at maybe like an internship or something along those lines to assist a designer or a theatre. I think I'm more excited about the designing of things in terms of like building. So I think that would be something that I would prefer to explore within the next few years. Yeah, and yeah.
Awesome, thank you. You can shout. Are you with us? I don't think so. I might be wrong. You can't. No, afraid not. Elena.
Hi.
Hi, Elena.
Hiya. So I'm Elena Cadu. I'm a new performance and theatre designer, and I'm still trying to find my style. Hopefully that's going to be soon. But yes, I've always enjoyed, and like any art I've created, I always gave it a meaning. So I like the audience to leave a theatre or an exhibition or anything with a few questions, just because that's how I like to leave any exhibitions or any like art I see or plays. And I always have like come up with a couple of questions that I later like explore and try to like explore in my own work and like, you know, as a response to what I've just experienced. So I know that's kind of my aim for anything I like, throughout anything I design, just to leave people to explore further whatever they've experienced. But yeah, I think that's it about me.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Very
Young Jean, I don't believe is with us. If you're here, shout out under a different name. No. Lois sends apologies, can't be with us today. And Georgia, you with us? No. Laura, I believe, is in Italy still. And Scott sends his apologies. Sinead.
Hi.
Hey.
I'm Sinead. I recently have been interested in lighting, so even though I've got skills over the past few years, I've gained skills in costume and set design, I'm possibly looking at going into more of a lighting technician route. In my free time, I also like to paint, and recently I've been doing these brightly coloured faceless paintings of my family. And also in my final major project, I've been trying to expand my digital skills, so I've done most of it using digital software like Photoshop and V-Ray and AutoCAD.
Cool, very good, excellent, thank you. Yosun Kim, are you with us? I think so. Yosun?
Hey.
Yeah, there you are. Hi.
Hi. Sorry, my video isn't working properly right now. So
no
yeah, I'm Jawan, and I'm thrilled to introduce myself as a set and costume designer for live performance. And I'm so much interested in recontextualizing a text from original to modern day. Also, I'm obsessed with color, therefore I usually take colorful and playful implicit approach to design. Yeah.
Very good. Thank you very much for concise. Maria, are you with us?
Hi everyone. Hello.
Hey, there she is. Hi.
Really nice to see you all. Yeah, it's very difficult to introduce yourself as a designer because you just graduated and you're a bit confused. You can call yourself a designer technically, but are you really one? So it's very difficult to introduce myself, but I will say that I'm very interested in developing further theater in any direction, not only in set design, but figuring out ways to be more out there for everyone to see the theater is strong and like to rebuild it after all of that happened with the pandemic. So I'm currently just interested in new ways of working and creating and in general building and restructuring theater so we can be what the audience needs us to be at the moment. So yeah, that's what I can say about myself.
Very good, thank you.
Thank you.
Almiri, are you with us? No, I don't think so. Sanju, introduce yourself.
Hello, I'm Sanju. Can you hear me?
Yes, indeed.
Yes. Hello, my name is Sanju Lee, and I'm a set and costume designer and illustrator and music career practiced from South Korea. In this final showcase, I design sets and costumes for Rajha the opera, and you will notice my style as soon as you see my works. I'm really passionate about historical fashion and research, and also drawing as well. And I'm excited to open a new chapter of my life as I'm going to focus on costume design and children's book writing in the rest of this year and next year. Thank you.
Wonderful, fabulous, thank you. Kids, I don't think is with us. Nope. Ruxin.
Hiya, if you can.
Hey, yes indeed, hi.
I'm rushing. I'm trying to find my place in the theatre world. Hopefully something to be connected with narratives and storytelling. And I'm very much interested in convey all these ideas with my own cultural background. I'm helping out some Chinese creative teams and hoping to find if there will be one with them. And I'm now working more in a 2D UI, but as I'm going to MA this autumn, so I'm hoping I can get more skill about making.
Very good, thank you. And Chelsea, Jian, are you with us? Yes. Good, say hello.
Hello, talking about me?
Ah, yeah.
Yeah, hi. I'm Si Qian. You can call me Chelsea. I'm from China, and I'm about to fly back to China next month, actually, for a gap year. So as I spent 3 years here, it's really good to have the experience. As I spent 3 years here to know about the industry here in the UK, I would like to also explore and know more about the Chinese industry, and to hope to practice in this field. And I'm quite interested in the performance like dance and musical. I would like to design with the body movement. I really like with that. Yeah, and yeah, I think that's all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Melissa.
Hi. Sorry, I'm coming to you from my car. I was at work, so I didn't want to miss it. Yeah, obviously it's a bit of a weird time, like everyone else has said, but I'm kind of using this opportunity to learn new skills and everything, honing in on some of the skills that I think I'm quite good at, like model making and things like that. But I'd hope to, whenever we're able to again, get some sort of assisting jobs and things like that. Because I think that I would benefit from learning even more about what hands-on working and things like that. But in terms of designing, I really like quite abstract pieces, but with really natural textures. And I've sort of developed a bit of a particular costume style where I make it with collage and drawings and things. So yeah, I'm just trying to add more to my portfolio and work wherever I can, basically. But, yeah.
Very good, thank you. Pip. Hey, Pip. Oh, can we hear you? Oh no, we can't hear you.
Yeah, Pip.
We can't hear you. Do you want to? We can see you. Yes. Oh, do you want to try and leave and come back in again? Okay, great, fab. We'll pick you up at the end. Rosie, you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, I realise how pale I look, so I'm just want to apologise in advance for sort of blinding you. Yeah, so like David said, I'm Rosie. I am a recent graduate, and I'm setting myself the task this year to just learn as much as possible. I find myself, I am quite multidisciplinary. I do want to learn as much as possible from anywhere. I have had training in fine art, training in dance, training in performance, and I'd like to find a way to combine all my loves in a way. But yeah, I'm just really looking forward to the next couple of years and just finding my niche and developing that. So yeah.
Very good. Fabulous. Charlotte.
Hi, my name is Charlotte von Trapansky. I know it's a mouthful. I'm a theatre designer and maker, I guess a new one. And though I work across multidisciplines, I always work with stories. So my theatre practice comes from a love of collaboration and the building of worlds. The more magical and absurd, the better. And in the future, I especially hope to continue my research and work into olfactory performances.
Very good. Cool. Thank you for that. And then Zhang, do we have Zhang? You with us? I don't think so. Pip managed to rejoin us. Not quite yet. Okay. Well, there we are. These are our designers, our new designers. Congratulations all, and yes, well done for all of your work. Oh no, Pip's is coming back. Let's see if can we hear you now, Pip? I can't hear you, Pip, I'm afraid. Okay. Cool. So let's move on to questions. Lots of questions for our designers, for our designer panel, and maybe Sinead, if you could kick us on. If you had a question you wanted to put to our panel.
Yeah. So my question is there a particular theatre or type of theatre you prefer designing for, and why?
So, type of theatre you like designing for, particularly. Anybody got any favourites? Soutra, is there any particular space that that draws you and wants you to return as much as you can? Oh, you're muted. Sorry.
Right, I'm off mute. Yeah, so I'm going to pick two because of the sort of bookend quality of them. The first space that for me was a sort of, I managed to build a kind of quite long relationship with, I worked in it 8 times, was the Gate in Notting Hill. And the thing I loved about it was that it was a space that begged to be transformed. It's essentially a long black coffin, and it asks you to change it. And people have done such an extraordinary amount of variations in it. And so being able to kind of build, with different directors actually, build a kind of long relationship with it over probably about 5 years, and keep getting to rethink how I could restructure it, where we could put the audience, where we could, all of those things. And then the last piece I did there was Hair, the musical, with an American director called Daniel Kramer. And Hair, I don't know if you know Hair, but it has a lot of nudity in it, and it's a very tiny space. And so it was a very big experience because there was a lot of very nude people, very, very close. And that was kind of, I didn't go back after that because there was sort of no point. I think that was kind of it. And that was really in the sort of early part of my career. I suppose I'd spent about 5 years. I'm from London. I came from, I was born and brought up in London, but I spent about 5 years working regionally. And then I spent about 8 years or so working in London Fringe. And the sort of 5 years of the Gate was a very big part of that, the sort of the Gate and Southwark Playhouse particularly. I very rarely worked in the Bush, for example. It's really interesting how these relationships build with a space. And at the other end of my career, so for the last 10 years, I've had the opportunity to build a relationship with the Olivier in the NT, in the National. And it's a kind of both monstrous and glorious space. It's a kind of huge brutalist, amphitheatre, and it has an extraordinary relationship with the audience, and it's all once again about how you pull the audience onto that stage, or how you throw the show out to the audience, because it has this vast airspace to deal with, and a huge sort of lilac auditorium. And that's, again, I think I've worked there now for 5 or 6 times, something like that. And again, each one of those experiences builds on the next. So whilst they're their own thing, they're their own show with their own particular director, again, it's been with a number of directors, I feel like I kind of built my own relationship, and each show is in conversation with the show before, in a way that you're sort of developing your own work and your own practice, kind of quietly and silently and privately. Probably you don't discuss that with the individual directors, but you inside, you know that's what you're doing in terms of the kind of way that you're learning about the space, actually, and becoming more sophisticated, hopefully, with it, or taking bigger risks with it, or you know, tussling it to the ground, or, you know, there's a lot of things you have to do with spaces quite often. But in either case, I think, and I think this will probably be something that the other designers will talk about, the relationship with these spaces as site-specific spaces. Really, I see no different between site work and building work. For me, you're always in a relationship with the building, with the materials of it, with the relationship with the audience. And sometimes you're up close and personal in a dark black coffin, and sometimes you're really quite far away in a big grey, concrete, glorious Greek amphitheatre. But essentially, the working practice is the same. It's a scale and material change, of course, but it's still the same. And so those for me are the 2 spaces that I would say from my career have really changed how I've worked, have pushed my work on, and have developed me as an artist.
Brilliant, thank you very much. That's great. Rajha.
Yeah.
Any thoughts?
So it's a good question. When I read that, I was like, okay, that's interesting. I mean, I guess for me, I'm still discovering spaces. Sort of, I guess, starting off, I had a long relationship with the Oval House, which is now due for complete demolition. I mean, I guess I graduated from Wimbledon, and I literally walked into mass camp and I did carnival. So the Oval House for me was carnival. So yeah, so it was literally every summer I'm in there, and then taking on and doing shows at the Oval Theatre. Yeah, it becomes about the people, your audiences, the relationship with who you're collaborating with, and it's how people, what they bring into the project itself is kind of a massive thing for me, and it goes to the same for sort of, you know, being invited, I guess, and working with Roy, who started off at Oval as well. Roy Alexander Wise, we did 9 Nights and Mountaintop, and more recently Master Harold and the Boys at the National. So kind of, I guess, walking into the National building and being given sort of the Littleton, and sort of Dolphin first and then the Littleton. I remember seeing Ray in the props department a couple of years ago, and she could see my face. I'm like, oh my God, what am I doing here? And it was just like this, her advice was just actually, it's about communicating. It's the same for whichever show you do, but it's knowing how that theatre functions. And I still remember that, Ray, so thank you. Over to you.
Very good. Oh, you're muted, Ray.
Can't hear you.
Unmuted. Yeah, well, I first started off at the Glasgow Citizens Theatre in a proscenium arch, working for Kenny Miller and Stuart Lang, Philip Prowse and Robert David MacDonald and Giles Havergill. And that was quite a big experience for me, because we had low budgets but a high aesthetic, and I learnt about how to deconstruct the idea of a proscenium arch, which is based on, you know, Renaissance perspective, but a lot of their shows were more environmental on account of wanting to spend the money on costume and prop details and storytelling and make an environment rather than a lot of scene changes. And that was partly a kind of homosexual aesthetic for high-end art, basically. And I was like really happy to be there and understand that. So I had a love of proscenium arch theatres, which then went on to places like the Lyric Hammersmith, the Matcham Theatre, and the Lyceum Theatre in Edinburgh, because there was something really peaceful about the way the proscenium arch was framed in a kind of human scale, which allowed the human in the middle to gently be taken on to the big picture. And it made me contemplate and think about the idea of Victorian capitalism and how they had to see everything in a legendary big picture with the one person in the middle, then the drawing room full of people, and then the larger landscape, and then so when you go and see those naval scene paintings in galleries of huge great Trafalgar battles, you can't help but think about the type of scenery that was painted and how the scenery flew in and out and all of that by a load of sailors, basically. But it's also just thinking about when a society wants to put forward a picture of how they see themselves. The proscenium arch is exactly the right space to do that. It's almost like a kind of poster campaign run by Saatchi and Saatchi in the 1860s, but now, and consequently, you know, when you're dealing with a pros, you kind of grapple with that. I recently, over the seas to Broadway on the Belasco Theatre, which is a little proscenium arch theatre there, and I was putting on Girl from the North Country, and a lot of those houses, proscenium houses, don't have the depth we do in this country. They're kind of short and long, basically because they're all built on car park or lot sizes, so they're not built on purpose for theatre in the sense that we have them here. And the Girl from the North Country was a show about people in the 30s who are alive and not alive. And so it was, although the show had never set out to be site-specific, by actually going into that theatre, it became totally site-specific, because the theatre itself had such an enormous atmosphere. And just above the auditorium ceiling, there was a set of apartments that were moved out in 1903 by Mr. Belasco himself, who is this kind of dodgy geezer who lived above the theatre and dressed up as a priest and had a lot of parties up there and had kind of an easy relationship with the actual shows, an obsessive relationship with the shows that went on. But it really had more than it, because the apartments were completely ripped out apart from a few remnants. It had a really ghostly feeling of a presence there but not there. And I think that unsettling aspect of it really helped our show move into that building because of the intimacy of the auditorium to the stage, and the feeling of an audience being present but not present, which of course is what they're experiencing now. We have no audience or no actors, and the theatre has just got a ghost light. And I think about it all the time, you know. So yeah, that's the proscenium. And the other one, I would agree with Soutra, is got to be the Olivier. What a nightmare that can be. It really kind of just kicks your ass when you get it wrong, and it's humiliating. Oh no, you can sit there for months and years afterwards with your head in your hands. And why is that? It's basically because you are learning as you go about how the space works, and you have to have a feeling for it. And sometimes you just don't learn quick enough, or you learn wrong, or you do something that's a tiny bit crap, but it's like that bit crap. So it's my way of resolving my issues with it as a person who's a designer, is to create landscapes in there. So I've been at my most happy in the Olivier when I've created a landscape, you know, like an Irish bog, and then using with Neil Austin the kind of gap between the floor and the ceiling, which is fantastically high up, for the smog to drift up, and all of a sudden it has a presence of an epic space when the landscape's used. So all I have to do is focus the hell out of the show by putting it in the right place. And also the big consideration is how people get onto or get into the space with a good rhythm, a rhythm that supports and doesn't undermine the structure of the play, which is often what we're dealing with in there is plays. So those are my two.
Fabulous. And I think kind of all those comments kind of are so easily transferred kind of across other venues as well. Kind of that idea that it is so easy to overlook just kind of certain elements of the feel of a space that can mean you can get it not quite right, or you spend the time and you can discover those the quirks that all of these buildings have. They're kind of their own personalities, their own inner voice that wants to get heard. Now Pip's back with us, and let's see if Pip, does your microphone work for us?
Can I just add in something there, David?
Yes, absolutely.
Sorry to leap in. I just want to say that we've been joined by Becca and Hazel, graduates from 2 years ago, who've already, well, I know Hazel has worked with another graduate, Naomi Cook-Cohen, recently at the Gate. In fact, that was the show that was in there just before we went into lockdown. So for today's graduates, I want to say, you know, Soutra's story about the Gate, these things carry on, and you might also be working there very soon. So that's something to celebrate. And I also promised Rajha that I think you worked at the Oval House with Nikolai.
Yes.
And he said he couldn't be here today, but to pass his love on.
Oh,
So
okay, thank you. Thank you.
Anyway, sorry, carry on to Pip.
No, cool. So yeah, Pip, is your microphone working now? Oh, Pip. No, I'm afraid not. I'm sorry. So, how's about if you want to write in the chats chat box a little introduction for us. Maybe one of your colleagues could read it out, or I can.
Can you hear me now?
Yes. Oh, hello.
It doesn't work.
Yeah.
Because... Right.
We can
hang on 1 second.
Yes.
Oh.
Yes. Yes.
He's there. Hooray.
Costume change with their laptops.
Oh, well done.
I'll do a quick introduction. I'm Pip Terry. I was born in Northumberland. I'm now living and working in London. In February, I did a show at the at Lyric Hammersmith as part of the Evolution Festival, and then at the Tristan Bates Theatre in March. But I think now I'm really wanting to help facilitate theatre in smaller communities in any way I can. And it's just such a pleasure to have these conversations opening back up again, and seeing you all here. Yeah. My question was, I guess at this such a pivotal point for all of us, graduates emerging now, what was your initial reaction when you graduated, and any advice that you can give to us, and how did you start, and what were your first steps?
Just a little question there. Right.
Yeah. Shall I start? Shall I kick off?
It's a question that everyone's got on their mind. So, Rajha, do you want to kick us off with this one?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I touched on that slightly by kind of literally walking into the Oval and going, "Can I help? Can I come and make costume?" And yeah, and sort of within 2 months, I was sort of almost second in production, in charge of making all the big carnival costumes, and as well as sort of the smaller group ones. As far as sort of, I guess, design is concerned, that ran parallel. So wherever there was any opportunity and who you can sort of collaborate with, I took those on. And also a lot of, I guess, contacts through your tutors is something to kind of keep in mind, and sort of just keep in touch with people, basically. because we meet a lot of people and sometimes it's just the timing. So don't be scared of contacting and then contacting people again. That's always quite important, because people tend to drop out and just go, oh, no, I don't want to annoy them, but please do. So yeah, no, I mean, I think as far as sort of experiences, it's taking on all sorts of opportunities out there. I mean, I've been a maker. I've freelanced at the Lion King doing sort of puppetry, and that sort of all linked through carnival arts. And then sort of I've even performed with Improbable in Satyagraha, both at the ENO and at the Met in New York. So you find yourself in these things, and I would say absolutely go for it and jump. But keep in mind your own practice as well, and don't sort of, if the work is not there, think about work that you want to pursue, and work that you want to create is also quite an important area to sort of focus on. So yeah, I don't know if that's little bits of thought.
Great, thank you. Soutra, any thoughts?
Yeah, I see Michelle May's on here, actually. We were at college together. God, I mean, a bit essentially, I mean, sort of like Rajha, essentially I just said yes to everything that came my way. Some bits that had come out of the show at the end of the year, much like this point. And it's like tiny nuggets, and you build something from these tiny nuggets. I once had this absolutely brilliant, it wasn't Desert Island Disc, but something like that, about this this Japanese pianist who made it into this sort of real kind of headline pianist at 50, which is very unusual. Obviously normally 23 or something, and you're a kind of incredible pianist. But she talked about the fact that she had built her career, and I was really struck by this, and really struck by the power of it, that she built her career brick by brick by brick, and therefore it was impossible to dismantle, because there were so many elements to it, a little bit like what Raj is saying. There were so many bits, there were so many contacts, there were so many connections, that should one thing fall by the wayside, the whole wall wouldn't fall down. And for me, I think my career has definitely been a brick by brick by brick event, and really like troweling on that mortar so that it doesn't fray. And some people have big opportunities early on, and some people have big opportunities 10, 15, 20 years down the line. These are just different ways of putting together a career. The one is not better than the other, one is not more valuable than the other. It's really about your own pace, your own personality, who you are as an individual, the connections you make, the kind of work you make, and it's really about the long game. And I always say to like assistants and stuff, you know, you just have to check in with yourself. At 5 years, you check in with yourself. Do I still want to do this? As you're scrabbling around with your few £1,000s a year, living in your bedroom, you know, whatever. And then 10 years, you check in with yourself again. And at 10 years, you're like, okay, I'm not scrabbling around now. I'm actually getting some fees, and I'm doing this and I'm doing that. And do I still want to do this? Yes, I do. And suddenly it's 25 years down the line, and you're like, I'm having a conversation with people, telling them about, you know, how you start. This is totally crazy. This doesn't make any sense. I only just started, but in fact, 25 years has gone past. So, you know, it's a gradual thing. And the other really important thing, and I'm sure both Rajha and Ray would back me on this, or maybe not, feel free to, but you never enjoy the work any more than that first work you get. So those first shows at the gate with, and when I worked at the gate first, you didn't even get paid to be there, right? You were working for free. So those very first shows that I was working for free with a budget of £350, whatever it was, I was happy as Larry. I'm you know, and yes, then you work in an amazing space like the Olivier, which is a huge honour, with the resources, the incredible workshop resources and craftsmanship that, you know, Rajha's talking about, and that's incredible. But in actual fact, I am no happier. It is no different. It is no more extraordinary than the first moment. You are as happy and love it as much as you do now, 25 years time. So enjoy it, believe in it, don't wish to be somewhere else, don't wish to be ahead of yourself, don't wish to be in someone else's shoes. Do your path.
Good stuff. Yeah, great advice. Ray, have you got anything else to add to those wonderful words? Oh, you're muted.
You.
No. Yeah, I do. I mean, always. I totally agree with Rajha and Soutra. It's to do with following your own path, as whether you consider yourself as an artisan, an artist, or a designer. However it is, it's how you key into what you're doing. And I think when I was in my 3rd year doing my BA in theatre design, I was like bored, I must admit. And I remember feeling bored, and I was like thinking, oh my God, I'm so fed up. I don't know what I'm doing. And then inside me, I had a kind of like, I really miss my 3rd year pupils that were above me. And I began to think about who I missed. And the guy I missed the most was Kenny Miller, who was up at the Sits. And I was like, and I wrote him a letter and I said, I really miss you. I can't tell you how bored I am. There's no fun now, you're not here. And he goes, well, after college, why don't you come up and work with me? And that was my first connection. I didn't realise I was doing that. I was just putting out a positive feeling to somebody and saying how much I like being, hanging out with them and stuff. And then I also remember my tutor, who was French, very direct, didn't take any prisoners in her advice. And she said to me that it was really important to follow your own taste, meaning not taste as in, oh, that's nice, but what you like, because there'll be enough theatre that makes you feel like never wanting to go in the theatre again, but there is some theatre that will actually make you feel so energized and so excited that you can't imagine doing anything else. And that's what you have to find. You've got to sort out that kind of inspirational theatre and go to it and talk to the people who make it and make connections with them. Now, of course, we're on a big, huge pause at the moment, but that doesn't mean there's a lot of virtual theatre. I'm sure you might have seen it, the Schaubühne and other sort of really cool institutions who put out their work online. And even though you take it with a huge pinch of salt that you're watching the theatre through film, they're the kind of places that might give you a clue of what you like and what you don't like. And people who you feel literally attracted to, and I don't mean hello kind of attraction, I mean sort of attracted to their creative energy and what they do, go and talk to them and find out what they think and what they can say. Any clues, any bit of advice. You'll find a lot of people in the business at the moment are not idle and but they're not working. And the thing about theatre is, as you know, it's very labour intensive. So some people, when we were all working like crazy, didn't have any headspace to talk to you, but now people do, So I think if you can seek out a creative chat with somebody who you connect with or feel you could connect with, do that immediately. In the next wee while. And also, continue to put together what you love, follow what you love, make your own work, paint, draw, any way you can. Keep connections with each other, because then you won't feel lonely. And sometimes it doesn't matter, of course, if you feel lonely, but I'm talking about buoyancy, keeping buoyant as feeling a part of a world where other people have the same issues as you is really, really important, I think. I also, when I did it, I worked for Kenny for a year at the Sits, and then I was a scene painter, and that bankrolled me with the little bits of design I did until I could just do design. But at the time I had to live in, cheap accommodation of various kinds. And often that was quite exhausting. Do you know what I mean? It was, but you have to find your way through the first couple of years, you know, somehow bankroll yourself with a skill or something, you know, or working on, you know, and find, but while you're doing that, keep focused on what you love and what inspires you, because that's what's going to take you all the way through your life. It's a life matter rather than just a job.
Fabulous. Thank you for that. We're heading up onto our lots of time. We're a little bit over, but that's fine. Next, that's kind of like 10 minutes or so. Any other questions from the floor? Anybody got anything burning that they would like to ask any of our panelists or any of the other professionals in the room here? Feel free to just open your mic and say and give us your question. If we're all good.
Yeah, I was just going to. Rajha's put up a little thing on the chat about it's a marathon, not a sprint, and I think, I mean, that's good advice in all senses, and a little bit on picking up on what Ray said. Being a stage designer can be extraordinary, but it can also be extraordinarily difficult. And it's worth saying that you do have to have good mental and physical resilience. It is long hours. It is a huge amount of output, often for not as much input as you might wish. And it is a labour of love as well as a job. And some of the work that Rajha and Ray have I've been doing, but David's also been very active with SBTD, is to make that less of the case, to give us a little more protection in the workplace, so it's not entirely a labour of love, which it perhaps has been quite often historically. But it does take a huge amount of personal commitment. And so in a way that's a positive thing to say. Expect to sometimes feel tired, expect to sometimes feel a bit like expect, you know, you're going to get as much as that as the highs. You're going to, you know, in all of those, and the connections and the wonderful things, and it's part and parcel of it. But you must be careful, exactly as Ray says, to make connections with people, be surrounded by people, so that you look after yourself when you're doing this. And this is also a very challenging time for all of us, the COVID time, and work is going to be challenging. What work is available is going to be challenging, clearly. How we make it, the parameters around which we make it, you know, it's going to be very reduced budgets, even in places which have reasonable resources. So if you work that down to places that have much less resources, it's going to be very tight and very tricky times. Now, we are problem solvers, so we are all up to that job of getting on top of that and finding solutions. But it's often a big ask, and it's worth, you know, being aware of that and thinking about that, and giving yourself the right circumstances to have a bit of resilience around that. I think that's you know, really important in this time for all of us, actually, even if we appear to, you know, be having an easier time because we've been doing it for a long time. It's actually not necessarily the case currently. So, you know.
Yes, indeed. Yes, very leveling, very leveling, I think. Yeah, some very good advice there, I think. Well, thank you so much. I think we'll wrap things up here. But what I'll do is I'll leave the room open for a while, so we can have kind of other conversations continuing afterwards as well. So feel free to hang out, or if you've got other things you want to get onto, that's great. And yes, so go and have a look at the rest of the showcase. I just put the Lucy just put the link up in the chat,
there was one little thing, actually, sorry Dave, there was one little thing I was going to say, and this is something to do actually with my age, and it may, Ray and Raj may or may not feel the same, but one of the ways, if you do want to assist, one of the ways that still is actually really important with probably 3/4 at least of the current theatre designers is model making skills. It's great to be able to do digital stuff for your own design work, and my God, you've all got way more digital experience than I have. I can barely use a computer. But it is good if you want to do assisting with other designers in the field. The model is still a huge part of how we describe our ideas to a wealth of people, from the actors to the scenic painters. And there can be other ways of doing it, but it's just worth saying that model making skills are worth money. They are something you can have as a skill to get you through these early years. And so they are worth doing a bit of work on, boring as that might sound.
I was going to say, and to that, I'd like to add, I cannot model make. So
no, exactly. So it's not the end.
No, but for me, I mean, it was not. I see it as a tool to kind of talk through ideas, if anything. So I think that there's a difference between designing, assisting, and the whole.
Totally.
Yeah, absolutely.
Totally. You don't need it for your own design work if that's not your practice. Absolutely. But as a skill to earn some money, it can be invaluable.
Yeah, I agree. I'm also reminded myself of one of when I sort of started out as a designer. I remember looking around to designers who were perhaps been doing it for 20 to 30 years more than me, and I would ask them questions and stuff, and I was like totally struck by one particular female designer who was pissed off after having worked in the business for all that time, and I was like, why, what's the matter? And she was like, over time she got pissed off with facilitating director's vision, and that being, you know, the repetitive nature of doing it over the year gradually ground her down, and she was like desperately trying to be a painter and was thinking, I'm going to be a painter now, I'm going to be a painter now. And she did eventually do that. And I was like, that conundrum, it struck me as something that I needed to balance in myself. And I kind of thought, well, I tell you what I'm going to do. I spoke to myself in the early days. I'm going to be a designer, but I'm also going to do other things that are good for me, just in case I don't want to get, you know, fatigued by the actual repetitive nature of working in the theatre. And consequently, I did installations, I did kind of fine art projects, I did all kinds of stuff just to balance out how funneling and how repetitive the theatre can be. So I really like to pass that on to you as a thought, that your other skills are something that you need to maintain as a way of keeping you buoyant in the theatre. Yeah.
Very good. And
sorry, can I just add a huge thank you to Soutra, Ray and Rajha for joining us this afternoon. It's really, really
it's
fantastic to hear your thoughts and to encourage all these graduates on their way. So please do go and look at the website of their work, and I really hope that you can, you know, graduates come back and visit us. This theatre design community, it's great to see Peter there. You know, everybody, a whole mix of people I know have been visiting this discussion, and it's just great to keep, so the point that Ray made about connections and communication, keep in touch with people, and this has been one way of doing that. So I hope that this is the first of more Designers Meet Designers events. So next term we'll be doing more, but thank you very much all of you for coming this afternoon, and have great summers. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lucy.
Everybody. Make sure you get a break though.
Yeah, oh soon.
I will, Rajha, thank you.
What's the password?
There's a password, yes. Where is it?
Oh, what's he doing now?
I was trying to get into the thing, but I have to look somewhere
Ah,
else.
here it is.
Preview 2020, isn't it?
There we go, yes.
Oh, right.
Right.
Lowercase p.
Yes, and 5:15, quite soon, we've got the video of our the Focus Drawing Architects Company gave a drawing prize to Yungjun Chang. 4 students were selected for that drawing prize. Now, drawing that being in the broadest sense of drawing, so CAD drawing to, you know, the earliest messy drawing. So the full range was looked at, and I'm really proud that we were offered that prize and that Yungjun won. So that's at 5:15. You can see that there.
Yes, indeed.
So thanks, David, also for hosting this afternoon. You're much better at this than I am. So thank you, David.
Thank you. I'm glad it's all worked. So yes, I will stop the recording now.